because Iran is on the boil again as the protest is turning deadly. According to news reports coming in that the death toll may have crossed the figure of 60. However, it is still not clear as there is a complete communication blackout that has been reported. And when it comes to warnings that have now come in from the United States himself, where President Trump has been saying, and this special report on the escalating anti-regime protest in Iran, where demonstrators are now rising up against their supreme leader Khamenei. As the death toll reportedly has passed 60, with over 2,000 of them having been detained, clashes that have been reported between the police and the protesters seems to be intensifying. As the United Nations has also issued a statement that the right to peaceful protest must be protected, and what is now been saying that as far as the Iranian leadership is concerned, it is now blaming foreign interference from the United States for widespread unrest, even while acknowledging that there is severe economic crisis, as the situation has drawn a stern warning from the U.S., sparking concerns among experts about potential American military intervention in the region. There you can see as the protest has been escalating, not just in Tehran, but the fire has spread to other cities. And what is now being seen as far as when it comes to the currency, they are being affected, high standards of living, there is growing inflation. That seems to be multiple of the reasons that may have prompted when it comes to these protests there. However, the people on ground are unhappy with the leadership, with the government as well. And we are looking at multiple even government buildings that has now been said have been set on fire by the protesters. So there you can see Iran being on the boil once again, similar kind of protest that was witnessed around 4 years ago. But this now seems to be intensifying as the Iranian supreme leader has been saying that the enemy would be defeated, and this is nothing but foreign interference. But there is a warning that is now coming from the US saying that they are very, very closely monitoring the situation. There you can see people there defying when it comes to the diktats of the Iranian supreme leader, and when it comes to the state government, and they are now out on the streets, and several buildings there have now been set ablaze, as far as multiple cities where you can see similar pictures that have now come in, prompting tight security crackdown by the authorities. What has now been said that there is a complete communication blackout, internet has been blocked, so there is very little clarity onto the actual situation as far as when it comes to casualties and those who have been injured. What has now been said that the death toll has now crossed 60 and more than 2,000 people have been detained. Let's in the meantime talk about what President Trump has been saying, because he's issued a warning to Iran and saying that Iran is actually in big trouble. Let's put out that breaking update for our viewers as far as President Trump saying that they are watching the developments in Iran very, very closely, and he's now issued a warning threatening that if needed, there can be intervention on part of the United States. So the situation that is now drawn a stern warning from the U.S. sparking concerns whether there could be a potential American military intervention in the region. But the death toll reportedly has crossed 60, with over several of them reported to be injured. And the United Nations also issuing a statement that the right to peaceful protest must be protected. And as far as, however, the Iranian leadership is concerned, it is now blaming foreign interference from the U.S. for the widespread unrest, while acknowledging that there is severe economic crisis on the ground to which people are protesting. But right now, Donald Trump is of the opinion that Iran is in big trouble, and he is now threatening to strike again if the violence continues.
Iran's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago. We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. So they've done a bad job. They've treated their people very badly, and now they're being paid back. So let's see what happens. We're watching it. We're watching it very closely.
Well, comments are coming initially triggered by Iran's worsening economic crisis that has now entered its second week and spread into dozens of cities and towns. And demonstrations that have been marked by chants against the political leadership, clashes with the security forces, and some aggressive response that has also come in from the authorities. Now, Iran seems to have written a letter to the UN Security Council rejecting when it comes to destabilizing US practices practice which, according to Iran, undermines the UN Charter and violate the fundamental principles of also the international law. As far as Khamenei has been of the opinion, the supreme leader of Iran repeatedly accusing the United States of encouraging unrest within Iran and saying that some protesters were acting not out of genuine grievance but to win a favor with Washington. So, however, saying that these actions are actually designed to please the US president, and also saying that this will come across as a big blow to the US leadership, which tries to intervene when it comes to the internal matters of Iran. Well, the situation is there escalating, Rishabh. Now that the death toll has also reportedly increased, there is a communication blackout, but there are war of words and possible intervention on part of the UN too.
Well, Amita, if we talk about Iran, Iran is on boil. At least 28 of the 31 provinces of Iran are seeing protests. The protests began with the demand for, unemployment and the way living standards are going high. The inflation is very high, and basic amenities are not available for the people. Now, this whole anti-regime, it has converted into an anti-regime protest in Iran, and the way Iranian authorities have clamped down on these protests has gotten the international attention as well. US, on its part, has openly warned Khamenei regime that if need be, they will intervene and they will hit, and quoting Donald Trump, they will hit really bad. And Donald Trump has clarified that boots on ground is not an option.
This is another warning they're coming in from the US president, saying that Iran is in very big trouble, and if they do anything bad to the people, we are going to hit them very hard, repeating the warning that he had previously issued on social media as well. We'll play out another as far as when it comes to getting you a better understanding on how the situation is unfolding in Iran.
And it is the women who are leading the charge against oppression, regression, and the theocracy by force, not choice. This is not a sudden rage. This is decades of forced silence breaking at once. Iran wasn't always like this. Look at these visuals. Visuals of women who had a role to play in building the society. A glimpse into what lives of Iranian women looked like before the 1979 revolution. They were out on the streets playing football. Some of them were surgeons. You can see pictures of that. Decades ago, Iran was one of United States' closest alliance partners in the Middle East under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. However, in January 1979, the Shah fled Iran amidst mass demonstrations, paving the way for the Islamic Revolution led by Ayatollah Khomeini. Earlier, Iranian women chose how to dress, where to study, how to live. Under Khomeini, however, women were forced to give up their right to choose by a regressive Islamic republic. So yes, this is decades of forced silence breaking all at once. On Thursday and Friday, the exiled Crown Prince Pahlavi, he called for demonstrations at 8 p.m. When the hour arrived, neighborhoods across Tehran erupted in chants. Protesters shouted death to the dictator and death to the Islamic Republic, while others praised the Shah, declaring this is the last battle. Thousands, you can see on your screens, thousands took to the streets before all communications to Iran were snapped off by the repressive government. But let's take you through the specific visuals which are related to the Iranian protest. Look at this, the government building which was set ablaze by a violent protesters. There's a government building amidst a lot of cheers, which you can hear in the background. They set it ablaze. Listen in. We'll get you another visual where thousands march out in the street against the Ayatollah regime. Listen in. Thousands of them marching together, protesting and chanting against the Islamic Republic. The next visual we are going to show for you. This is the one where you can see a young protester. You can see him climbing up, placing the lion sun flag as a show of resistance against the regime. He has been hailed by the people as the hope for a generation and death to the dictator. We are going to show for you a dramatic one where you get to see state authorities trying to enter a hospital. Can you imagine entering a hospital, raiding it? Why? Because they suspected that the protesters were getting cheated in this so that they could enter and arrest the patients. Just look how armed authorities can be seen handling their own people in this manner. Remember, this is a state at war against its own people. This is a hospital where they've gone in to arrest the protesters who were getting treated for their injuries. Well, you just heard one of the women screaming, trying to stop the authorities, trying to stop the armed police, but failing. There's this other visual that you can see on your screens. Angry protesters tearing away bags of rice. Why? Because remember, they've been insisting that this is not just about the economic crisis. This is symbolic of the anger that has been penting up inside the people of Iran. They have said that these bags of rice are a slap on their face when given by the government. They're tearing it and tossing it up in the air, saying that we want our dignity. It's not just about getting free rice. What they want are their rights, not rice.